Hello, everyone. Christina Werner here with another video from SimonSstamp.com. Today, I'm using the Cozy Wishes stamp set, which is included in the November 2021 card kit from Simon. I was really smitten with all of these cute birdhouses and the mailbox, and I thought I would create a slimline card using all of the images from the stamp set. Well, not all of the images, but a lot of them. Starting out by ink blending. And in the card kit, you do get one of these awesome Positively Everything tools, or a PET, as we like to call it, a PET. It's great for holding your ink pads while you're blending. So I'm using 3 colors of Distress ink: Evergreen Bough, Chip Sapphire, and Black Soot. And I'm going to be using some blending brushes from Honeybee to blend all of these colors onto some white cardstock. Now, distress inks, the original distress inks, as opposed to oxides, can be a little bit more finicky when it comes to blending and getting a really smooth blend. But just like using oxides, you do want to put down a lot of ink, and the more ink you put down, the more seamless of a blend you will get. So I went back and forth between Evergreen Bough and Chip Sapphire quite a bit, trying to add more and more ink onto the surface of my paper. And then when it came to adding black soot, I actually just ran my ink pad right along that edge, so it would give me an idea of really how saturated I needed to get this black ink on my paper. And once I had that black ink down, I was able to really get an idea of how much ink I really wanted. So this is going to be a very dramatic background. It's going to be sort of a sky for my scene. I want it to look a little bit like a nighttime sky, so I'm not concerned at all with how saturated these colors are becoming. I like that they're blending all together. I'm getting a really nice kind of dramatic blend between all 3 colors. Now, in the end, I wish I would have had a little bit more of that evergreen bough coming up into the center of my card, but not a huge deal. I really love how it turned out, and these colors blended so well together, so dramatic. Look at that. I love that black to chip sapphire and then to the evergreen bough. So now while I let this piece dry, I'm going to work on the other elements of the card. Like I mentioned, I'm stamping a bunch of elements from the Cozy Wishes stamp set. And I did stamp them twice in intense black ink using my Misty tool. Because I have 2 layers of ink, I decided to use a heat tool just to help dry that ink because it can be a little bit thick. And then I brought out my Copic markers and got to coloring, just very simple coloring. I'm going to speed up the video because this was a little bit time consuming and turn on some music, and I will catch you when the coloring is complete. So I used my scissors and fussy cut out all of my images and then kind of arranged them on the background. And then I thought to myself, don't get too ahead of yourself, Christina. You need to create a card base. So I created a slimline card base out of some Neenah Classic Crest 110-pound cardstock. A slimline card is actually 8.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. So that's the finished folded size of my card. And it's also the size of my ink blended background that I created earlier. I put foam adhesive behind each of these birdhouses and lanterns and the mailbox, and then I arranged them on my background. At this point, I have not adhered the background to the card base yet. I did want to do some stamping on the card base for the greeting before adhering it to the card base. The greeting I decided to use from the stamp set is "Sending warm and loving thoughts," and I wanted to make sure that if I embossed it, that the embossing powder wouldn't stick to everything. So before I stamped, I did a test run, and I'm glad I did because that background was not completely dry yet. So I wiped off all of that white embossing powder, hit it with the heat tool some more just to give it more time to dry. And then I used an anti-static powder tool all over that lower bottom corner to make sure that I had a nice surface for my stamping and embossing. And when I tested it again, that embossing powder slid right off the cardstock. So it was the perfect time for my stamping. I stamped the greeting in Versamark ink, and then I applied that same embossing powder, which is Alabaster embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's just a nice white embossing powder. Tapped off the excess and then hit it with my heat tool until all of that powder was melted and smooth. So at this point, it's ready to be adhered to the card base. So I took out my adhesive. I'm using Tombow Extreme Adhesive today. And I put adhesive all along the edges and a few strips down the middle, and then adhered it to my card front and pressed everything down. Now in the stamp set, there are some dots that you could use for snow or stars or something like that. But because I had a little bit of trouble getting some embossing in that bottom corner without it kind of the powder sticking everywhere, I decided instead of stamping the snow that I would draw it on with a white Jelly Roll pen. So I just drew on some random dots. Could be snow, could be stars, whatever you'd like. And since I have my white gel pen out, I decided to do a dashed line at the very bottom edge of the card as well. And just because I can't let a cute scene go without a little bit of sparkle, I grabbed my sparkle pen from Spectrum Noir and added just a little bit of shimmer on the red mailbox, also on the heart, on the front of the lantern, and also on the roof of the tall birdhouse. And that just adds a little bit of shimmer and shine onto the card. You can see it sparkle as I tip it in the light. Just a reminder that this stamp set is from the November 2021 card kit. There are so many other supplies included in the kit. I didn't even touch it today. There are so many other things you could create. Make sure you head over to SimonsStamp.com to check out the card kit. And thanks so much for watching today. I'll see you guys in another video very soon.